They told us history was written by the victors, but in this case, history was rewritten by scientists and erased by their successors. This experiment doesn't exist in textbooks. It was classified, denied, buried under layers of bureaucracy and fear. Those who worked on it vanished. Those who found the documents were silenced. And yet, the results of what happened behind those locked lab doors still shape the world we live in today. This is the story of Project Morpheus, the experiment that never officially happened, but may have rewritten human history itself. Winter 1953. The world is gripped by the Cold War. Two superpowers race, not just for weapons, but for minds. Officially, the United States and the Soviet Union are both funding behavioral research. In simple terms, studying how stress, fear, and isolation affect the human brain. Nothing sinister, right? Standard psychology, military training, resilience enhancement. The kind of dry, academic stuff you'll find footnoted in psychology textbooks. But here's where it gets strange. In 1978, a document surfaces, stamped Top Secret, Eyes Only. It describes a joint Soviet-American operation involving dream manipulation, sensory isolation, and a method of synchronized consciousness. The file was quickly reclassified and never mentioned again. According to official records, Project Morpheus never existed. But let's just say, too many traces remain to believe that. It starts in 1949. Two young scientists, American neurologist Dr. Harold Voss and Soviet psychologist Dr. Irina Petrovna, meet at an international congress in Geneva. They share an obsession: how human consciousness can be shaped, fractured, or reassembled. A year later, both vanish from public records for almost a decade. The Cold War is in full swing.
Intelligence agencies on both sides invest heavily in psychological defense projects. According to fragments found decades later, Voss and Petrovna were recruited separately by unknown joint committees to develop methods of remote behavioral synchronization. The theory? If two minds could be connected through shared dream states, emotional contagion could influence entire groups, armies, populations, societies. On paper, the idea was nonsense. In reality, it got funding. A lot of it. Project Morpheus began with 20 volunteers, soldiers, students, orphans, the homeless. They were promised payment and light psychological testing. Instead, they were sealed underground, in a facility outside Kiev, under continuous observation. The first reports mention 90-hour sleep deprivation, exposure to low-frequency sound, and repetitive hypnotic suggestion. Then, the critical phase. Each subject was connected to an electroencephalographic feedback loop, intended to merge wave patterns between participants. They were told to sleep, dream, and synchronize breathing. What happened next is where every record diverges. Eyewitnesses, the few that remained, describe impossible things. Subjects began reporting identical dreams, a doorless corridor, a voice counting backward in an unknown language, shadows whispering from the ceiling. Medical logs show synchronized heart patterns between people in different rooms. When one woke up screaming, the others did too. Then the breakthrough, or the breakdown. On the 23rd night, one participant, Sergeant Daniel Reeves, stopped moving mid-experiment. His body was alive, breathing, heartbeat steady, but his brainwave pattern ceased completely for 6 minutes. When activity returned, Reeves began speaking fluent Russian. He'd never studied it. Another subject, Anna Chernyak, described seeing brilliant machinery spinning in her head and claimed she could hear commands before they were spoken. 4 days later, she attacked a technician, screaming that he wasn't supposed to be there. From that point, records decay into madness. Drawings of spirals, notes with nonsensical equations, one line repeated dozens of times. We touched the noise beneath the dream. And then abruptly, the logbooks stop.
What the official version says: research discontinued due to lack of funding. What the classified memos suggest: containment was required. In early 1955, the entire facility was sealed. Survivors were transferred to medical institutes under false names. The American files were destroyed in 1962 during a fire in the archives. Soviet documentation was archived under internal code D347, never declassified. But something survived: an internal memo from 1963 warning research teams not to replicate multi-subject neurofeedback protocols under uncontrolled circumstances. In short, don't open the same door twice. Years later, whispers about Project Morpheus kept surfacing. Ex-military consultants referencing the Dream Lab. Cold War analysts speaking of collective trance experiments. And even CIA budget sheets with a strange line item: Nocturnal Cognitive Synchrony, Black Subproject 7. All denied, of course. But then you start noticing patterns. Several key individuals connected to the project died mysteriously. Car accidents, heart failures, or simply vanished during travel abroad. The last known photograph of Dr. Voss shows him looking directly at the camera. Eyes dilated, smile. Wrong. 3 weeks later, he supposedly fell from a hotel window in Prague. Could something like that be forgotten? Apparently not. Local villagers near the abandoned Kiev site still call it the place of the sleepless. They report strange hums beneath the ground, even though sealed decades ago. Radiation readings fluctuate for no known reason. In 1992, 2 urban explorers disappeared there. Their camera was recovered, showing static flickering lights and faint whispering that technicians later identified as human speech slowed down 17 times. The words match old lab protocols. Coincidence or residue? And here's the uncomfortable part. After 1991, several Western neuroscience programs suddenly began referencing collective cognition models and empathic field simulation. Same mathematical structures as Voss and Petrovna's lost research. Different names, different budgets, but unmistakably the same fingerprints. Coincidence or continuation? Let's line up what we know. 20 test subjects, shared dream patterns, brainwave synchronization, a shutdown cloaked as budget loss, cross-language knowledge transfer, missing researchers, surviving math models appearing decades later under new funding, and a sealed site still emitting unexplained frequencies. Now, ask yourself, if the experiment was harmless, why erase it so completely? Why are the archives closed until the year 2089? Why did both governments quietly sign research bans about multi-subject cognitive entrainment? And why did those who mentioned the project on record, journalists, archivists, families, all retract their statements within weeks, citing unforeseen health issues? They say dreams are the safest space left to the human mind. But what if someone tried to weaponize them and succeeded? Officially, Project Morpheus never existed. Unofficially, it outlived everyone who denied it. The textbooks tell us about psychology, behaviorism, and Cold War paranoia. They just forget to mention the experiment that may have rewritten how human thought connects, controls, and conforms. So, what really ended? The project, or just its name? Maybe when you close your eyes tonight and hear that faint hum before sleep, you'll remember this story and wonder who else might be dreaming with you. The official version is neat, convenient, sanitized, but too many details don't fit. So decide for yourself, coincidence or a carefully buried piece of our collective amnesia? Tell me in the comments what other dark truths from forgotten history you want exposed next. Subscribe if you're tired of the polished lies in the textbooks.